haven't met you, my name's Jamie. I'm a mining engineering student at University of Arizona, and I graduate in December. And I work right now for Amaran, Hawaii at Kapa'a Quarry doing mining and environmental work.
Bob is a guest, but he's also a speaker, so he gets to introduce himself when he speaks. I'm surprised he recognizes me without my Rotary shirt on. Any other guests I missed? I don't think so. Oh, one more. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Ken Goldstein. I've been running a little company by the name of Computer Aided Technologies for the last 28 years. If you're engineers, you probably were impacted by me at some point. If you ever used AutoCAD, I'm one of the guys who wrote it.
Oh, welcome. Okay, is there any business? I guess we have business.
Oh, business. Next week, our speaker will be Bruce McEwen, who's the chieftain of the Caledonian Society, and his subject is going to be the Scots in Hawaii. And so, if any of you have any friends who are Scottish, bring them along. I think it should be an entertaining lunch. And Bob, if you're downtown, perhaps you'll pop in.
I know a Scot. I'll tell you.
I can't resist adding to what you just said that one of the most important exports of Scotland were the Scottish engineers that built and ran the Hawaiian sugar industry and who are my personal favorite customers.
Another announcement? Okay, Howard.
I have just a few days ago become the proud owner of Code Green, which is a program on Jay Feidel's Think Tech Hawaii. And my topic, of course, is energy efficiency. And it's twice a month, so I will be needing speakers. So if any of you want to be my guest and speak about energy efficiency, or a tangential subject into which we can weave energy efficiency, please contact me, and you'll be a star of stage, screen, and radio, or at least screen and radio.
Or just radio? Oh, YouTube. Okay, so kind of screen. Okay, we have a jokester in the house. Need a joke of the day?
I just got this on the email. Thank goodness. There I was sitting at the bar staring at my drink when a large trouble-making biker steps up next to me, grabs my drink, and gulps it down in one swig. "What you going to do about it?" he says menacingly, as I burst into tears. "Come on, man," the biker says. I didn't think you'd cry. I can't stand to see a man crying." "This has been the worst day of my life," I say. "I'm a complete failure. I was late to a meeting and my boss fired me. When I went to the parking lot, I found my car had been stolen. I don't have any insurance. I left my wallet in the cab I took home. I found my wife with another man. And then my dog bit me. So I came here to this bar to work up the courage to put an end to it all. I buy a drink. I drop a poison capsule in it and sit here watching the poison dissolve, and then you show up and drink the whole damn thing. But hell, enough about me. How about you?"
Very good, very good. So, who is introducing one more? Oh.
Yes. Well, I think Bob Sigall doesn't need any introduction. I think we all know him. He's been a very good friend of EANH, and he has brought some of his books today. If any of you don't have any of his books afterwards, I'm sure he'll be selling them. But basically, Bob is an entrepreneur extraordinaire. I mean, he just does everything, and he's probably the busiest man in Honolulu. He still gets his story out once a week, and he does consulting. I think he's consulted, with 700 different companies. I mean, so if you really want to know more about him, do go online for Bob Sigall, Honolulu author. Here he is.
Aloha, everybody. I am a friend of this club. I enjoy this club. Great to see all of you again. I'm a Gemini, so one of me is at home taking a nap right now, and I create this illusion of being busy. I'm a multitasking kind of a guy. I'm so interested in different things that it's hard for me to just do one. So you mostly know me for the writing that I've done, but I'm also a business consultant. I've done that since 1978. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I've been teaching at HPU for 16 years. So it's kind of an interesting career. I'm, of course, Honolulu Rotarian. But I thought I'd show you some of my favorite photos today. I've been putting talk together. It dawned on me recently that I've got 1,000 pictures. Excuse me, I've got 10,000 pictures that I've collected. I spent 9 months looking through various archives here in Hawaii for my second book, and I spent 9 months looking through the Honolulu Advertiser archives for my third book, and so I put together some of my favorite pictures. Is this the clicker that I use? Okay. Let's start with this one, though. What is this a picture of?
Aloha. Those are 5 girls with all varying heights.
This is an event that continued for 65 years in Hawaii. This is the Kodak Hula Show. And why did they create the Kodak Hula Show? Tourists had a problem in the 1930s that the head of Kodak recognized and created the Kodak Hula Show in response to it. What was the problem that tourists had? It's an engineering question. No, that is true. They didn't have color back then. But film was slow in the 1930s, and the hula shows were at night. And so all their pictures either came out blurry or dark. And so the Kodak Hula Show was created as a daytime activity so that people could take pictures that would turn out during the daytime. And, of course, it was a huge success for Kodak as well. Where was the original Kodak Hula Show? It was next to Queen Surf. It was between the Natatorium and Sanssouci Hotel on the grass behind the beach. And then Frank Fosse kicked them out, and John Burns gave him a place behind the shell. So they spent the rest of the years there. Let's go on to the next picture. This is the oldest color aerial photo that I've found. It was in a group called Aerial Photos at the Hawaii State Archives. It's 1955. Who can tell me what we're looking at? What do you see in the picture? Yes, Alan Lloyd.
White area, of course, is the shopping center. But Dillingham bought that land, and as a Honolulu student, I went down to see a water buffalo in the rice paddies there, and they drilled a channel just off the beach. They moved all the coral fill to that white stretch, and then they sold the coral fill to other contractors for construction around the water.
Excellent. How about this thing here? Who can tell me what this is? That's the drive-in. It was originally called the Drive-In in 1948 when it opened. In 1962, we built 2 other drive-ins, the Cam and the Kailua drive-ins, and they renamed this Kapiolani Drive-In. Here's Kapiolani Boulevard, Kalakaua Avenue, King Street here, Keamoku Street. You can see that the area between Keamoku and the drive-in is almost all empty fields. I don't know if we can notice any water buffalo in the area. But if you're a long-timer here in Hawaii, you probably recognize Scotty's Drive-In here, and this is Rainbow Roller Land. Also, there's something missing from the picture. Yeah, there's no Magic Island in the picture. So today, Magic Island would be here, but it hadn't been built yet. The formal grand opening was in 1972. Moana Center was built in 2 stages, so the first stage was to here. I'll show you a picture of that in a little bit. Why don't we go to the next photo? This is the same thing. This is Camera Hawaii in 1955, hired by Dillingham. The interesting thing for me in this picture is what Kakako Beach Park looks like. Mostly water. It was a dump. It was where we dumped our trash. And so it's being filled in. the waterfront got pushed out this way. In the past, Ala Moana Boulevard was very close to the ocean, and it got pushed further out here. What is this green area over here?
Ward Estate.
Yeah, that's the old Ward Estate. Closed in, I think, 62, 63. Next to that would be McKinley High School. Let's go. Yes, please.
You know the old sewer pumping station down there on the Ala Moana?
Yes.
Okay. My hobby was flying way back in those days. And they come around Diamond Head and contact the tower, and they say, clearing to continue. And then about 3 minutes later, they say, 1-4 Delta, what's your present position? And I pick up the horn and say, Kukai Springs 800. Well, Kukai Springs was the outfall from that sewage pumping station. It made a big brown spot on the ocean, just off the page, right there, opposite the old street.
It's an interesting story, but I had decided I'm not going to write about that in the Star Advertiser. Let's go to the next picture. Here's the same view looking toward Waikiki. If it's a little bit bigger, you could see the Reef Hotel here and the Moana and the Royal Hawaiian. Next picture. Now, I find this one really interesting. This is looking toward Punch Bowl over here. Who can tell me what this brown area is? Yes, Alan.
Yeah, a contractor was very smart, cut a deal with the DOE. He said he'd give them a football field if they could have the fill from cut that slice out of Punch Bowl. I believe he used that fill material to render a low bid for the H1.
Yeah, so by giving them a football field and getting the fill, he was able to underbid the other competitors for building the H1 freeway through town. The H1 freeway had a different name when it was originally built. Who besides Alan can remember what it was?
Makai Arterial.
That's right, Makai Arterial. We were supposed to have a Makai Arterial along Ala Moana that was never built, but the Makai Arterial was the name that we gave the H1 freeway originally. Why did they change the name from Makai to Honolulu Freeway? At one time they thought we might have a freeway further Makai. Where that would be, I don't know. Can you imagine, going through Punahou School or Nahoa Street or something? But that's what they thought of. Here's the old Civic Auditorium, which is where all of our concerts and conventions and wrestling and roller skating, roller derbies were. Here's a better view of the old Ward Estate. Drive-in theater. No Iikai Hotel. Yeah, the lagoon is there, Hilton Lagoon. Next picture. This is Henry Kaiser's proposal for Magic Island. It was his idea, and what would be magical would be 2 artificial islands that would be created along Ala Moana. So here's Ala Moana Boulevard, here's the peninsula that is Magic Island today. His proposal was between Koala Basin down here, we would have 2 artificial islands, and that would be what was magical about them. And as you can see, there's bridges here and here. Boats could sail around and through. There would be kindergarten areas for kids. There'd be a bar for adults. And if you look up here, there's 6 hotels on the property. He offered to pay the price of this if he could put up hotels on the property. And it wasn't so far-fetched back then because this area between Waikiki and downtown was little used back at this time. It's now, fully part of Honolulu, but it was kind of an outlying area back then. Next photo. This is a proposal by the Rotary Club of Waikiki to extend the Wai Canal. The original idea of the Wai was that it would join the ocean in 2 places, but that didn't happen. And the end result was it's our dirtiest waterway in the state. And so in 1967, the Rotary Club of Waikiki decided to have an artist touch up this picture. This would be going through Jefferson Elementary School into the park. It would create a lake in Kapiolani Park and then come out to sea near the natatorium. And of course, people objected for various reasons. The elementary school didn't want to have it go through them. The park didn't want to have it go through them. And also people were concerned that debris would end up on the beaches in Waikiki. Next photo. What's this?
Fort.
Honolulu Fort.
Right here.
Yes, it's almost right where it's exactly where we are at the moment, as a matter of fact. The Russians built this fort in 1815. It was taken over by Kamehameha the Great almost immediately when he realized that their plans were to take over the islands. This is the inside shot. Let's go to the next one, an outside shot. The walls are actually 16 feet high and 20 feet thick. And a lot of this coral blocks that were used to make it are now in the sidewalks of this area downtown.
So the Russians then went to Kauai and did it.
That's right. We have two forts. I built them at the same time, and the remnants of Fort Elizabeth in Waimea are still sitting there.
Well, what is it? Principal clue, right? That they built a fort.
I don't believe so.
I've heard that comment that there's some old rock fort up right at the end of the road there in Bridgeville that might be attributable to the Russians.
I'll look into that. There is an island in the Hawaiian chain named that has a Russian name. Can anybody name it?
Lanikai.
Very good. Say it again, Alan.
Lisiansky.
And it's about 1,000 miles to our west. Next photo. What is this intersection? Here's a street here and another one there. Shell service station on the corner here. Hotel and Punch Bowl. This is Punch Bowl, this is Hotel. This is the block that the state capitol is on today. Architects Hawaii had something to do with tearing it all down, I assume, and building it back up. But we had a Shell service station here on the corner. This is the Iolani Barracks. It was taken apart stone by stone and reconstructed along Richard Street. This is the State Armory. The biggest building on the block at the time. Let's go to the next photo. I think we have an aerial view of the same block. So here's the State Armory. Here's Hotel Street. You can see Iolani Palace up here, King Street at the top, Baratania Street at the bottom, and this is Miller Street running through. At the moment, Miller Street drops down and goes under Baratania Street into the state capitol, but this is all the buildings that we had on the state capitol grounds before it was torn down.
That was where the Honolulu Rifles were stationed up there.
Yes, the Honolulu Rifles, which was a rifle battery that we had. We used to have a shooting range on this property back about 110 years ago, but it disturbed the residents of downtown Honolulu, so they moved it to the Kaka'ako area. Next picture shows the area devoid of all buildings except the Shell service station is still there. Here's the library and the state archives.
Wasn't the advertiser near there too? Or the Star Bulletin?
The Star Bulletin was downtown, I think, on Merchant Street. Next picture. Here is what is now a pedestrian mall. Was a three-lane, one-way street, Hotel Street. We're standing at Richard Street looking toward the state capitol. Now, this is an odd picture. I was looking through photos of Iolani Palace, and I found this with snow falling. Who can tell me what this is? Yes, it is. It is the Sapporo Snow Festival. This is a 1/6 scale model of Iolani Palace made out of ice and snow in Sapporo. There is something that is incorrect about the picture.
Which way Kamehameha's after Earth?
Kamehameha's the statue is across the street. Next picture. Here's a daytime picture of the same thing. So the statue today is across the street, but for the purpose of this, they put him standing here. The statue of Kamehameha, by the way, is a duplicate. We have an original that was made, cast in Paris, put on a ship and shipwrecked on the way to Hawaii. And then it was erected in a distant foreign port. Who knows what foreign port it was erected in?
The islands off Argentina.
Falkland Islands. It was shipwrecked on the way to replenish its supplies in the Falkland Islands, Port Stanley. All the passengers were rescued, and then the Port Authority decided to go out and see if they could rescue the cargo, and they immediately found the statue of Kamehameha, but one of the arms was broken and the spear was broken, so they had insured it, so they asked the sculptor to make a duplicate. The original was later found, erected on the main street in Port Stanley, and then the captain of the ship was passing back through Port Stanley, saw it, bought it for $800, put it on a ship to Hawaii. It arrived here before the duplicate arrived, but the arm and spear were coming with the new ones. So they decided to erect the duplicate on King Street. Where did they put the original once it was fixed? Javi, in front of the courthouse there. Next photo, please. What is this building?
It's a palace.
It is. It's Iolani Palace. It's the original palace. Kamehameha III built this. King Kalakaua built the palace that we know today, but this is a pretty ordinary-looking home. Where could you find Jesus surfing in stained glass? Probably the only church in the world where Jesus is on a surfboard. The architect of this was asked, "Is that a surfboard?" And he just smiled, they said. He was supposed to have created 20 biblical scenes and a few Hawaiian scenes as well. There's also a 2-foot-long glass termite that was made in honor of the termites that destroyed the wall of what church?
St. Andrews.
St. Andrew's Cathedral, just a few blocks from us.
Have you seen the termite?
Yes, it's low in the lower right. So if you walk into St. Andrews and look at the wall, it's in the lower right-hand corner, a couple feet off the ground. It's made out of brown glass. It's not a real termite, obviously. This is up in the far left-hand corner. It's very hard to see. You have to either stand back and look at it with binoculars, or you're standing and looking at it at a very high angle.
So it's on your right when you're standing outside, or when you're standing inside?
It's when you're on the inside. When you're on the outside, it looks just like a black wall. You know, there's not enough light inside to really illuminate it, even at nighttime. But if you go inside and then you look toward the bottom right-hand corner, looking toward Baratania Street, you'll see the termite. St. Andrew's Cathedral. Why did we name it St. Andrew's Cathedral, by the way? He is Scottish. Kamehameha IV died on the feast day of St. Andrew. And so his wife, Queen Emma, had the name changed as they were about to unveil it. They were going to call it something else. I don't recall what it was. But St. Andrew had a cross. And his cross is in a prominent place in Hawaii today. Where can you find St. Andrew's cross? Since you have the Hawaiian flag has 2 other crosses. Who can name the people on the
Ireland
and England? St. George of England, St. Patrick of Ireland, and St. Andrew of Scotland have 3 crosses in the Union Jack.
They might have to change it so that Scotland goes independent.
I don't know if we would change our flag. We shall see. This is a picture of the proposed Makai Arterial. Here is the Makai Arterial. This is Helen Morita, who was the founder of Charlie's Taxi. Charlie was her husband. The 2 of them ran it together from, I think, 1939. And when they were talking about building a Makai Arterial, she had this vision of like the Golden Gate Bridge in her head, and she had an artist draw this out. You can see there's like a Golden Gate Bridge here, and here there's another one in the next picture. It goes offshore, and then this looks like it might be Ward Avenue, and then it comes ashore here, possibly Kapahulu, and then further out here toward Diamond Head, joining the Makai Arterial in a couple places. Here's a downtown view of the same thing. Can you imagine lying on the beach in Waikiki and looking out at all these cars and trucks whizzing by? I think that might have hurt our tourism in some way. This is a picture of touched up to show what the Makai Arterial would look like, showing up, coming out here, going north of the Alawai. This is a B-24 Liberator bomber. It was nicknamed Madam Pele. It was donated to the military by a particular group in Hawaii that raised $360,000 in 1944 dollars to buy it, $4.5 million in today's dollars. What group raised this money? McKinley High School students class of 43-44 had a goal of $100,000 in war bonds. They actually did $360,000, and they had this plane built. You can see Madame Pele more clearly painted on both sides. It served in the Pacific during World War II, and a Burrell-Burlingame at the Pacific Aviation Museum tells me it was recycled into pots and pans after the war. But if you have kids or grandkids, remember what these kids accomplished. You know, so many times we think they're capable of so little, but when you're sufficiently motivated, you're capable of doing great things. And a lot of times we don't hold our young people up to what they could actually accomplish. Who can tell me what this is?
Similar to the plane that John Rogers came out on, but obviously not.
No, it is John Rogers' plane.
Is it really?
Yes, after it was repaired, it is flying on the windward side, I believe.
No, that's Waikiki.
Oh, you're right. That is Waikiki. But it is John Rogers' plane. Tell us about John Rogers.
Yes.
He was attempting to fly nonstop from Oakland to Hawaii. They said if the Golden Gate Bridge had been built at the time, this is 1923, I believe, that he would have had to have flown under it. They were weighted down with so much fuel. They had ships along the way to refuel them. If need be, you can see it's a seaplane. It could touch down in the water. However, they did run out of fuel 300 miles to our east. And they sat down, and then they discovered the radio didn't work unless the propellers were turning. And so the ships never found them. They were a little bit off course. However, it was 6 Navy guys, and so they took the fabric off the wings of the plane, and they hung it as a sail between the two engines, and they sailed the plane the rest of the way to Hawaii. It took them 9 days. They had enough food and water for 2. When it rained, they would take the fabric off the engines, and they would use it to catch water. And they sailed all the way to Nowili Harbor, where a submarine met them, and they delivered Hawaii's first air letter, I guess. A little bit soggy. This is a banner that's still hanging at the airport showing modern jets and John Rogers' plane. John Rogers passed away in a plane crash a year later, and they named Honolulu's airport after him. Who can tell me what this is? This is the Great White Fleet. Teddy Roosevelt decided to show American muscle around the world, and he sent a group of 18 battleships on a 42,000-mile trip. It was, I think, 22 months long. And they didn't have Pearl Harbor open for them at the time, so they anchored between Diamond Head and Ala Moana. They had a parade in downtown Honolulu. There's a particular island community that asked the president if they could stop by and pay their respects. The person there asked the president and asked the governor of Hawaii, Governor Carter, I believe, and the president said yes. And ever since then, the USS Missouri, an earlier Missouri was part of this battle group, has had a special relationship with that island community. Who can tell me what that?
Molokai.
Kalapapa and Molokai.
By the way, this is a big stick. Speak softly and
Yes, this is the big stick. Thank you for pointing that out. Kalapapa was run by Father Damien, and he inspired a lot of people, including a guy named Joseph Dutton, who had served in World War II, and he thought, I've been a bad person for the first part of my life. I will try and make up for that. And he was reading about Father Damien, and he decided to go to Molokai and help him. Father Damien died 3 years later, and he continued his mission for another 41 years. And he asked the president to have the ships pass by. They were coming to Lahaina and Honolulu, and they did. And ever since then, we've had a special relationship between Kalapapa and the USS Missouri. Hawaii Theater downtown had a special word on the curtain of the theater, promising safety from fire. What?
Asbestos.
Asbestos. This is what the original curtain looked like. Today, I'll show you the next picture, has big letters that says Hawaii. But can you imagine that in the 20s through the 80s, our curtain had big 1-foot letters, asbestos, on them.
I haven't seen it on the TV commercials yet. You know, the commercials about the
Mesothelioma, yes. I'm wondering why I haven't heard from Gary Gallagher. So here's what it looked like. Can you imagine? Asbestos was a miracle fiber that the Romans knew about 2,000 years ago. We didn't know that it caused lung cancer until recently. This is a photo of the only battle fatality. I'm amazed that someone actually got a shot of it, of a kamikaze pilot hitting the USS Missouri.
dent is still there.
Next picture shows you the dent. They didn't repair the dent on the side of the ship. The plane landed upside down, and the pilot was killed in next picture. They were just going to throw the plane and the pilot overboard, but the captain of the ship insisted on giving him a military burial at sea. He said he had fought bravely and died valiantly, and so the next day they gave him a military funeral. Only combat fatality aboard the USS Missouri. Why was the Missouri chosen, by the way, to end World War II? It came into the war fairly late. It was laid in 1941 and sent to sea in 1944. President Truman was for Missouri, so he overruled the choice of another ship and had the ship for his state. This is Duke Kahanamoku. He ran a gas station, two actually, one on Nu'uanu Avenue and Paoa Streets, it's now a Chevron station, and another one at Seaside and Kalakaua. He said in 1934 that he was floundering and he didn't know what to do with his life. He said, "Out of the water, I am nothing." And the head of Union Oil said, "How'd you like to run a couple gas stations?" And he said, "I'm not too proud to do that." So he pumped gas for a year before he finally figured out he could run for sheriff, and he did that for something like 50 years. Alan?
I witnessed that and actually ended up contributing to a technical paper on the fact that this 1961, July something or other, and it claimed that the electromagnetic pulse put out all the lights in Honolulu. I personally observed that. The lights did not go out. However, later I did determine that a special part of the series streetlight circuit did go out, and I called people about this and eventually ended up working with Los Alamos to define the circuits that did go out on Project Starfish.
This is taken from Tantalus, where we had atomic parties to watch nuclear explosions above Johnston Island, 700 miles to our west.
I saw 4 such tests, 2 very spectacular ones. This one, to my human eyes, was a huge photographic flashbulb. It was behind a cloud puff from Red Hill, and it just lit up the whole sky, and then like a flashbulb faded away, and then the whole sky turned red for about 20 minutes. The other spectacular one I saw was from Kahoua Ranch on the Big Island, and it produced another moon on the horizon. It took a while to fade out, and then a great Venetian line of radiation emissions formed for another 15 minutes later.
The atomic tests were in the atmosphere, so 80 to 100 miles and even higher in the atmosphere, which is why we could see them here in Hawaii.
Yes.
This is the vineyard that gave Vineyard Boulevard its name. I've been trying to figure out where it was. I knew that Vineyard Boulevard was named for a vineyard. Here's Mauna Kea Street here. This would be Zippy's today, Borthwick Mortuary. Francisco Palmerin came to Hawaii in the early 1800s, planted this vineyard in 1815, and gave Vineyard Boulevard its name.
Well, Foster Garden has a little thing with some grape plants on it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and this is where I got the picture from Foster Gardens. I thought this was interesting, showing the Royal Hawaiian Hotel before the Sheraton was built. And I wondered what happened to this building. The Sheraton is like on a triangle-shaped thing here, and this building still exists. It's in one of the groins of where the arms come together. It's their PR department and their HR department. This is the grand opening of Ala Moana Shopping Center in 1959, 8 days before statehood. There's about 1,000 people gathered here outside of Long's for the grand opening ceremony. People were told it would start at 8 o'clock and they should get there early. 7:45, they were told. Next picture shows the same thing. Here's the crowd outside of Long's. You can see that Phase 2 hadn't been built yet. The Ala Moana Shopping Center was built in 2 phases. Here's the middle today, and Liberty House would have been out this way. This is a grand opening of the ceremony we had with a guy representing King Kalakaua. That's Walter and Lowell Dillingham. Who recognizes this reporter down in the lower left-hand corner? No, not Kini Popo. Good guess.
The guy in one ear.
The guy in one ear.
That was his article, in one ear.
Next picture.
You don't know who
Aku. He thought the secret of his success, when I moved here to Hawaii in 74, he was the #1 DJ in the world, and he was playing big band music. I didn't get it. And he thought his secret was the music that he played, and he would spend hours looking for the right music to play. Who's this lady?
Hawaii.
No, not Pauahi. Victoria Ward. Not a lot of pictures of her, so her name is very well recognized, but her face isn't. Here's the Ward Estate, King Street running here, Ward Avenue here. You can see that Ward Avenue does not quite join with the street above. So here's Straub. Ward Avenue was moved over a little bit here. This was Ward Avenue. This was Kapiolani Street originally. Trader Vic's was on the corner here. It's actually... And here is here's where the house was, and this is a lake and lagoon coming down at the bottom here. There used to be boating on that. So it was an idyllic setting. There was an artesian spring. The water table was higher in Hawaii 120 years ago than it is today. Here's the Ward Estate here in this old map, rice fields where McKinley High School is today. You can see the size of the lagoon. And interestingly, this is before Kapiolani Boulevard was built. It went right through what would have been a bicycle track surrounding a lake. The bicycle track was called the Cyclomer. This is from the IBM building looking toward the Gold Bond building. The Hawaii Ward theaters are about here today. This building has been torn down and another building is going up on its place. This is where Ward Centers is. And this is Ward Warehouse under construction in the mid-70s. Fisherman's Wharf up here. Ward Warehouse down here. Who's this young lady? Not Shirley Temple. The man is her father, and he is that is Leilani. That is Harry Owens at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, and his daughter, Leilani. Next picture. He fell in love with her and wrote Sweet Leilani. Bing Crosby came and was dancing at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, and he was playing that song, and he danced up. He said, "Harry, what's the name of that song?" "Sweet Leilani," he said. "Can't pronounce it," Bing Crosby said, and danced away. Bing was here researching the movie called Waikiki Wedding that he was going to be filming in the next year. Danced up to Harry again and said, "Harry, tell me the name of that song again." "Sweet Leilani." "Still can't pronounce it," Bing Crosby said, dancing away again. He went back to Hollywood, insisted that song be in the movie, and the writer said, "We already have all the material we needed, including Blue Hawaii." And he says, "Well, if that song isn't in the movie, I won't be in the movie." And they said, okay. And so they relented and they put the song in the movie. It won the Academy Award the next year for Best Song. It sold 25 million copies in his version of it, and another 10 million in other people's versions. It is credited with restoring the recording industry in the United States during the Great Depression. Here's Shirley Temple. She came to Hawaii in 1935. She was 7 years old. Her mother had told her she was 8, but she was actually only 7. Her mother had lied to her until later. 15,000 people went to meet her ship, and it scared her. And then she saw Duke Kahanamoku in the crowd, and she yelled out to him, and pretty soon she was on his shoulders, and he drove her into Waikiki, where she stayed at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, and they invented the Shirley Temple drink for her.
Well, I can't resist. I got to shake her hand at a reception at the Royal.
And this is a little bit later than 1935, I assume.
I was about age 6.
Wow, okay.
I was born 2 days before her. I call her my older sister.
I see, okay. I'm going to have to write about this later. I'll talk to you guys. Tell me what this is a photo of.
One of my earliest memories.
Toyo Theater?
This is not the Toyo Theater, good guess. This is the Byodo-In Temple in Uji, Japan. This is what the Byodo-In Temple on the windward side was modeled after. You can see almost identical in appearance, except there's ko'olaus behind our version. I guess they couldn't duplicate that in Uji, Japan.
And this one won't burn.
No, probably not. I think it's made out of concrete. This is an interesting photo. I know a lot of you are members or have been to the Pacific Club. This is the original home that a Scotsman built, Alexander Cleghorn. And it was the original building on the property. They then built the clubhouse that we have today, and then this was torn down, and the pavilion is there today. Another daughter of this man was born there, and her name was mentioned earlier. What was her name? No, not Pauahi.
It's Iolani, though, right?
Yes, Victoria Iolani. Tell me what this building is. Corner of Young, Victoria, and Beretania Streets, 1907.
Is that something you do with Princess Ruth?
No. It is a school, though.
Royal School?
It is not Royal School. Princess Ruth, her estate became Central Middle School. This is the original building for the University of Hawaii across from Thomas Square in 1907. The campus at the University of Hawaii was crowded with rocks, and they had to take them out by hand and by horsepower. And so it took 5 years to clear and to build the University of Hawaii in Manoa. And so this was the temporary location on the site of what is now the Academy of Arts Learning Center.
That's not Lilikona, though.
That is the same building as Lilikona, or the same property. Here's the original Moanalua Gardens. Here's Tripler Hospital. Today it would be up here. This is the part of Moanalua we're familiar with today, but the family part was down here. And below that was mostly marsh area. Here's the train. They had a rail spur that came here. The train was originally inaugurated in Moanalua because Damon was one of the big supporters of the train. View of Diamond Head in the 50s before Magic Island was built. Alan defended this area during World War II. This is Lanikai in its early days. Alan tells me that during World War II he was in charge of a rifle company.
Well, it was during the aftermath of the tidal wave.
Oh, that's right. Was it the 46 tsunami?
Yeah, for a week we maintained the beach patrol of Lanikai to stop looters.
And you found a truck trying to leave with a bunch of refrigerators. And how old were you at the time?
Let's see.
17 years?
So I would have been 17. Because I was a sergeant in charge of a guard of one of the squads of the Hawaiian Territorial Guard. Also captain of the company rifle team.
Triplers, one of the rumors was that it was built backwards and painted pink accidentally, but it was built facing the trade winds. You can see the arms curl this way. It was designed to capture the trade winds, which would blow from this direction. The hillside above Tripler was unlandscaped when they built it in 1948, and because of that, they painted it rose coral to hide Hawaii's red dirt. Here's a picture of it from Salt Lake. It used to be quite larger than it is today. And last picture, another picture of a small village down here on Salt Lake. I haven't been able to find any information about that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my pictures today. This is Chin Ho at the Iikai. Do I have time for any questions? We're almost at 1 o'clock.
2 minutes.
Questions?
Oh, yeah.
Alan?
listening to Aku in the morning, going to work. The moment I remember the best was he interviewed this lady who had a little, eleemosynary commercial, and she wanted to talk about the Huli Huli chicken sale to raise money for the Cat Lovers Association. So Aku gave her the time, and then the next guy to call in says, Aku, I'm calling about the Chicken Lovers Association. They're going to have a Huli Huli cat sale. And I just about went into a crash off the road. I never laughed so hard in my life. And then Aku says, honest guys, I didn't put him up to that.
There's a lot of funny stories. Aku did a lot of pranks, like the April 1st parade in Waikiki. Told people to go out for, and they were waiting with their coolers and their beach chairs, and cars were driving by, and there was no parade at all. By the way, one last story I'll tell you, then I'll give the microphone back to Bill, is that Linda Coble told me that when she was hired to work at KGMB, that Bob Sigall asked Rick Blangiardi to go get a convertible Mustang for her as a signing bonus. And she and her husband, Kirk Matthews, were driving in Waikiki, and a policeman started doing this to them. And so they moved over to follow where the policeman was, and they found themselves in a parade on Kalakaua Avenue. The policeman thought that they were part of the parade because they were in a convertible car, a Mustang, and they're driving down and they're waving to people, and they can't get out. And they finally asked somebody who's walking next to them, what parade is this? Gay pride.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much.